Okay, members, so on the order then. A couple of housekeeping announcements. If I could ask members to ensure that all tablets are on mute. That includes me then.
Mine does its own thing, so.
And that all mobile phones are switched off, as they can interfere with our recording system, even if they're on silent mode, so we can check that, members. We have a number of substantive items today. We'll be briefed by departmental officials on the draft racial equality strategy, and we'll be considering a statutory rule in relation to the Ombudsman salaries order. And finally, we have a brief closed session to consider the committee's draft report on Assembly Committee European priorities for 2014. We have received apologies from Chairman Mike Nesbitt and Brenda Hale. Have we any other apologies or expected late arrivals? Okay. Jimmy, did you say George is an apology, sorry?
No, I think he might be, sorry, just a bit late.
Any other?
George hopes to be here.
No problem, that's grand. Okay then, agenda item 2, Chair's business. We have in page 5 of your packs a request from DU Dance NI to meet the committee to discuss Back to the Wall project. This is an intergenerational project involving participants between 7 and 80 years of age. The committee has a copy of the DVD should members wish to view it. It's my understanding that it's a project around peace walls and interfaces. I was thinking that it might be an organisation that we would want to meet with in connection to the Uniting Communities inquiry. If members are content that we can go back to Dance NI and say that we'll be in contact with them whenever that inquiry initiates. Members content?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Then at page 6 is a copy of committee's current invitations. That includes an invite from the European Economic and Social Committee for a presidency visit to Belfast. That's on Thursday the 3rd of April from 12:30 to 2 in Parliament Buildings. The Northern Ireland Assembly Business Trust Europe Day on the 13th of May in the Long Gallery, 4 to 5:30, and an invitation to the Chair to attend the Open University degree ceremony as well. We've also received a request from NI Horizon 2020 manager in Derry, George, concerning the possibility of the committee's European Advisory Panel meeting to discuss Horizon 2020 and the targets that will be set for drawdown in this programme. There's a proposal for the last week in April, first week in May for this meeting. Are members content for us to go ahead with this panel meeting? Agreed. Okay. Agenda item 3 then, members, are the draft minutes of the meeting of 5th of March 2014. It's on page 8 of your meeting pack. Are members content to agree the draft minutes? Agreed. Okay, agenda item 4, matters arising. At page 15 of your pack is a response from the department to the committee's request for information on how the department is dealing with the issue of press regulation and to request a briefing on the issue. The response has advised that the department continues to monitor developments in relation to regulation and that a briefing at this time would not be appropriate. Do members have any comments? The committee's original query was as a result of correspondence from the Committee for Culture, Arts and Leisure in April 2013. Perhaps we could forward this response to that committee and seek guidance from DCAL committee before further action. Members content? Okay. Okay then, at page 17 of your pack is a response from the department providing further information following the briefing on the mid-year review of the Executive's European priorities for 2013-14. I think, George Robinson, there's a response here in your query in relation to Coleraine to Londonderry Dairy Track Relay. If you want to have a glance at that, are members content to note otherwise?
Content.
Yep.
Okay. At page 23 of your pack then is a response from the department providing information on social clauses put in place in contracts within the department's remit. Are members content to note that correspondence? Agreed. Okay. Page 29 then of your pack is a response from the Minister for Finance in relation to the committee's request for information on the line of authority for placing wind turbines on executive-owned property. The Minister has advised that decisions to place wind turbines on departmental land rests with individual departments. Members content to note?
Noted.
Okay. The list of outstanding issues then, members, is at page 31 in your pack, and that details our outstanding issues which are decreasing. Be glad to note.
Sure.
Yep.
I just wonder why some of these are still on the list. I mean, the 25th of April one there, 13 appointment of teachers. I mean, surely that has been pretty well covered. This is acknowledgement letter received. Is it not pretty well dealt with now in terms of a lot of the teachers have been appointed? I assume that's the teachers that were appointed onto the separate funding, is it?
Signature projects, perhaps, yeah.
Surely that has been pretty well covered. I mean, I think some of these things are sticking on and really the department has covered them.
We can certainly check in relation to that particular one, Jimmy, yep.
And then in relation to the assessment of the HIA support services, has that not been pretty well covered as well in terms of the stuff that we've been doing with WAVE and other organisations?
Can check that as well.
We'll go back.
And then in relation to the MLK, I mean, that's an ongoing process. It doesn't seem, you know, they said that we would be briefed and if there was any, I mean, we're basically been told there's no agreement. Until there's some sort of an agreement. It's not really a...
Be still an outstanding issue.
Still an outstanding issue, yeah, I understand that. But I mean, the ministers have said that they would talk about it. That's the only point that I'm making. I'm just making the point that some of these things appear to have discussions around them. I'm not only using that one there in particular, but the other ones I think possibly we might have already covered, and what's the point in keeping them on a list whenever they're...
Okay, well, we can check with clerks whether any of those items can be removed, Jimmy. We'll have that done if that's appropriate. Fair enough?
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Agenda item 5 then is correspondence. At page 34 of your pack is correspondence from the Chair of the House of Lords EU Committee, enclosing a copy of its response to the European Commission on the Commission's work programme for 2014. Members content to note?
Noted.
At page 40 then is correspondence from the Scottish Government providing a copy of Scotland's priorities for EU reform.
Noted.
Content, yep. Page 64 then, a copy of response from the Department to the Committee for Enterprise, Trade and Investment, providing further information from the Barroso desk officers. Content to note?
Noted.
And page 70 is correspondence from the Committee for Finance in relation to outstanding post-project evaluations. Do members wish to forward to the Department for comment on its outstanding post-project evaluations?
Agreed.
Agreed. At page 79 then is correspondence from the Committee for Finance providing a copy of a research paper on financial transactions capital. Members content to forward this to the Department for comment?
Great.
Okay. Page 97 is correspondence from Committee for Finance providing a link to the Carnegie Trust's report on measuring wellbeing in Northern Ireland. And members content to forward that to the Department for their comment?
Great.
Okay. Last correspondence then is page 98 of your pack from the Fermanagh Trust, encouraging the use of the Delivering Social Change framework to encourage community energy. Our members wish to forward this to the Department for comment? Yep. Okay. Any tabled items for correspondence? No? Okay then. Agenda item 6 then, members, is our briefing from departmental officials on the draft racial equality strategy. At page 101 of your pack is a clerk's brief, followed by a copy of the draft racial equality strategy. Also included from page 161 is a copy of the summary of the Joseph Rowntree Foundation report on poverty and ethnicity in Northern Ireland. And we're glad to welcome to the committee then Ricky Irwin and Ken Fraser. Very welcome, gentlemen. Thank you. Happy to make some opening comments before we take questions?
Yes, thank you.
Good to have you here.
Very glad to be here again. We welcome the opportunity to present the draft consultation document to the committee today. Our last racial equality strategy for Northern Ireland was published under direct rule in July 2005 to cover the period 2005 and 2010. That strategy was the product of extensive consultation with people from a minority ethnic background and wider civil society during 2003 and 2004. Following devolution, the strategy was endorsed by the Assembly in a debate on the 3rd of July 2007. Since the time of that publication, the needs of our minority ethnic population have changed. Whilst the numbers and rate of arrival here may have slowed down, and despite the economic downturn, Northern Ireland remains a popular beacon and has become ever more multicultural. A revised strategy which takes account of these and other changes is appropriate and urgent. Accordingly, we have been working in close association with representatives of the sector to produce a meaningful strategy that is focused on the deliverable, the achievable and the aspirational. This consultation paper was prepared in close consultation with the Racial Equality Panel, a group chaired by the Office of the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister and made up of representatives from government departments, relevant statutory agencies and minority ethnic representative organisations. The panel met on a number of occasions last year, most recently just before Christmas, and were presented with a draft consultation document based on their input. It was invited to submit formal opinion and revisions by the end of January, and officials have been redrafting it to reflect these amendments. Obviously, this strategy is key to identify the actual and real needs of our ethnic minority population. Census figures show that the population has continued to grow, though the numbers arriving here are slowing down. There is clear evidence that those who are here are determined to remain here and to try to make a better life for themselves and their families. At the heart of the strategy remains the 6 shared aims that we have refined and refocused to reflect real need for the people that we seek to empower. Those aims, we intend, shall provide a framework for action by individual departments and agencies. The strategy also sets out how departments will work in partnership with others in pursuit of the strategic aims. We believe that the proposals in this document, which aim to promote racial equality and tackle racism, will help to raise awareness of the issues and responsibilities in this area. They will foster good relations and thus promote greater social cohesion and equality of opportunity for everyone here. This strategy will be an important part of the Delivering Social Change framework within OFMDFM, which OFMDFM ministers will work together to tackle poverty and social exclusion. The framework seeks to coordinate key actions between government departments in order to deliver a sustained reduction in poverty and associated issues across all ages, improve children and young people's health, well-being and life opportunities, and break the long-term cycle of multi-generational problems. Delivering social change complements and adds extra focus to the much larger and social and economic policies and programmes which operate against poverty. As with the previous strategy, this strategy first and foremost is for the executive, and it will lead on implementation. The 12-week consultation shall allow everyone with interest in the sector a chance to contribute evidence, experience and ideas to help shape a meaningful and useful strategy. We shall facilitate sessions in the major languages of our minority ethnic people, and we shall host events in the areas of highest minority population. By the end of the summer, we shall be ready to publish a document that people can believe in, that can set the agenda for the next decade and will match the changing landscape of our changing society. Ken and I are happy to answer any questions that members of the committee will have on this draft consultation document.
Thanks very much indeed, Ricky. It's obviously a welcome development, given the passage of time there's been since the end date of the last strategy in 2010. I have a number of questions. I'm keen for members to have an opportunity to ask questions as well, but maybe I could start with a couple of questions. What research was undertaken to determine the current levels of racial inequality, discrimination or harassment in Northern Ireland, and if you could maybe give us an idea of what the current nature of those issues are?
Well, I believe the document sets out some of the statistics that have been collated by the Northern Ireland Statistics and Research Agency. I'll ask Ken if he's aware of anything more specific on that.
We've quite clearly, we worked with the JRF Foundation on the poverty and ethnicity study that they did. We have a number of different studies. We hope also to use the consultation period to actually gather in whatever information we can. Surprisingly, though, when I was drafting the consultation document, I was looking at the previous strategy, and I listed what I thought were the major issues confronting minority ethnic groups now, and I looked back and it was exactly the same as that which we'd compiled in 2003, 2004. Some things change, some things don't change. Key issues remain things like language, occupational segregation, issues around there. So, but we will be very happy to gather in whatever information we can in respect of research on inequalities, and we will happily publicise it in the eventually published strategy, so that other people can be aware of it.
Okay, can you give us a few practical examples of what you mean by occupational segregation and language, and maybe some of the few other key issues that are being faced?
One of the difficulties are that Chinese people tend to find themselves in the food industry, for instance, and people find it very, very difficult to actually break out of that, to break out of what traditionally they've always done. So we hope that we can actually allow people the opportunity to actually go where their talents may take them, rather than go where their ethnicity decrees that they should be. Certainly that's one of our cases. There are real issues around language. There are real issues around, for instance, I think of the Roma in South Belfast, the Romanian Roma, where there is a very low level of literacy. We need to do things urgently to address that if we are to get people into the labour market. So that's another thing that we want to do. The one thing that we've set out absolutely clearly in the consultation document, most of the time we've asked questions, the one thing we've stated that we definitely do want to do is to actually have ethnic monitoring by all the service provision departments. The old story, if you don't have trying to do racial equality without ethnic monitoring is like trying to do accounts without bookkeeping. You just don't know what's going on. You don't see who you're actually supplying your services to. You don't know what difficulties they're experiencing, etc. So we think that ethnic monitoring is a first step to making sure that our services accommodate the new multicultural Northern Ireland.
Okay, and are we to conclude from that there was inadequate and insufficient monitoring during previous periods of strategies?
There was no monitoring.
There has been some monitoring by in the health sector.
Yes, I mean, sort of. There was no practical, single way of actually carrying out the monitoring. DHS-SPS, to its credit, have actually now introduced monitoring, or is introducing monitoring along the lines of the best practice guidance that OFMDFM prepared for departments. We would look to other government departments to do more of it, to update their systems to make sure that they are fit for the purpose, for the new demographics that we have here.
Okay. Ken, to be honest, I'm a bit startled that in response to the question of can you set out some of the key issues that are being faced, as your response has been Chinese people find themselves in the food industry, but I'll ask a few other questions to see if we can maybe go into that a bit further. The Racial Equality Panel, can you give us an idea of some of the membership organisations on the Racial Equality Panel and maybe the type of feedback that it gave to you further to sharing a draft document with them?
Well, I'll just say the 6, just to back to your previous comment, the 6 shared aims within the strategy set out what the strategy is trying to tackle in terms of, you know, examples of race, hate, crime, discrimination and so on. But in terms of the Racial Equality Panel, this is a panel that is chaired by OFMDFM and has a number of government departments represented, including stakeholders from the minority ethnic sector. So, I mean, Ken can elaborate on some of the specific departments here, there, and others.
Yes, I mean, sort of, we have a number of the service provision departments, DHS, SPS, DEL, Department of Education. We also have the Equality Commission, Human Rights Commission. From the sector, we have NISEM, we have Bryson Intercultural, we have Ballymena Interethnic Forum, we have representatives from Travellers as well. A broad spread. I wouldn't say that it was, you know, sort of, it's not intended to cover everyone there, and we will be looking at the membership after we've accomplished the consultation. But it gives a fairly good sounding board. I would hope that the Racial Equality Panel would look on this consultation document as being a joint enterprise rather than something that we've given to them and that they can fiddle with in the margins. We've taken on board all the comments that we can. So.
And what sort of feedback were you receiving from the panel further to sharing a draft document with them?
We were getting little bits about precision about things like, for instance, they mentioned that we should mention the Framework Convention for the Protection of National Minorities as one of the standards in there, along with the International Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. We've done a bit of smoothing round the wording of the 6 shared aims. Some people argued that they wanted human trafficking included in here. Some groups argued that they didn't. Eventually it came down to the decision that human trafficking was best dealt with elsewhere, and that human trafficking was not a minority ethnic or not an exclusively minority ethnic issue. We have got a number of suggestions about how the strategy should actually interface with TBAC, Together Building a United Community, and how it should interface with delivering social change. People have sought a certain number of guarantees about how the funding will actually go in future than the Minority Ethnic Development Fund. So certainly a fair amount of stuff from them, but I wouldn't like to characterise it as being a process where we offer them something, then we say, yeah, well, we'll have that, but we won't have that. We try and work together to make sure that the people on the panel, the minority ethnic representatives on the panel, and more widely, actually feel a sense of ownership of this.
Yeah. I mean, just to add that this has been a very consultative process with the panel. and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but they have been broadly content with the document as it is,
Yeah.
as a draft that we're bringing forward to members of the committee, and then obviously we want to have a further consultation meeting with the forum, or the panel, sorry, after this,
Yeah.
reflecting any further comments that they may have before we go out to full public consultation.
Okay, have you a timescale in mind in terms of when that consultation's going to commence?
I would like to say the 1st of April, but I think I'm probably... you make definite statements and then you get into trouble for that. I would hope mid-April would be the time I would envisage, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and the strategy sets out the creation of a programme of work as well. Have you a timescale in mind for that?
Sorry?
Have you a timescale in mind for the creation of a programme for work?
We to be candid, with the previous strategy, we had a action plan, one action plan that we had brought forward. The action plan comprised 260 different actions. One would be sceptical as to exactly how much better they made lives for minority ethnic people, each of these actions. I don't want to see us chasing a large number of actions. I would far prefer to see us focusing on the issues that will make the biggest difference to minority ethnic people. This may just be 2 or 3 actions per service delivery department. I would envisage that we would do that through the Racial Equality Panel initially, working through it to decide what needs to happen and how we go about doing it, and securing the agreement of different government departments to do this.
I mean, I think, Deputy Chair, it'd be wrong at this stage to actually tie down a date by which the programme of work should be specified, and actually the document on page 37 leaves that open, because as Ken has explained, we need to have further consultation with the departments involved, who are the lead departments across delivery of services and so on. But we'll want to use, obviously, existing structures through both TBUC and primarily the delivering social change structures, where we have senior officials from across those departments around the table on issues of social change. So, of course, we'll want to complement the work that's going on there and to drive forward delivery of the strategy.
Okay, bring in Stephen Moutry.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for coming. Can I ask, do we have any reliable figures as to the estimate of minorities that are in Northern Ireland? Because I thought that's pretty key. We want to do a strategy to know how many people will be impacted. The reason I ask is a couple of weeks ago we had a briefing here from NICEM, and we were presented with figures in relation to the Roma, and we were told there were approximately 500. A couple of days later, in a radio interview on Radio Ulster, a member of the Roma community, a spokesperson, indicated there were 1,200 to 1,300. You know, so
the Roma community, I mean, people have reasons to exaggerate how many people are actually here. I mean, that's one thing that I would say. With the Roma community, however, it's very difficult to estimate how many are here. In past days gone by, you would have people settling for a certain period. We understand that Roma migration here is seasonal, so you have people turn up towards the end of summer, stay here for the winter, and then go back to Romania for the summer. There are also issues about how many whether it's Roma from Romania or Roma from elsewhere in Eastern Europe. There are further issues. I mean, sort of these numbers are not gathered. There is no one to gather these numbers.
So we have no idea across the ethnic...
We do. We have an idea, yes. I mean, sort of, and we certainly have an idea. The census will give us net figures for 2011. But yeah, I mean, sort of people can arrive here and they do not have to declare themselves to anyone, so we do not necessarily know.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. The official statistics from NISRA from the census in 2011 do provide a baseline for those figures. I don't have those figures with me today.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Bronwyn McGahan.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I don't know if you're aware, but Dungannon has the fastest growing population, and that is linked to the foreign national population. We obviously have a large meat industry, and with recent investments in those areas, we foresee that there will be an increase in the foreign national population in that area. So I would ask you just to be cognizant of that, and probably it would be worth doing a consultation in that particular area. Can I ask as well regarding welfare reform cuts? Has that been given consideration?
Well, just on the first point, absolutely take your point about the Dungannon area,
Yeah.
and we can consider the need to have a specific consultation in that area. On the welfare reform issue, the document itself doesn't go into that, other than obviously to talk in more general terms about the impact, the change in the economic environment and the impact that that's having on the minority ethnic community here. Ken, is there anything more?
Yeah, I mean, certainly when we see exactly how welfare reform is headed, then we will be in a position to actually work out the implications that it has for minority ethnic people. But I haven't done that so far.
And
So,
that work might come out of the actual consultation process itself.
we'll be happy to take it on board.
So just on that, there's statutory rules going through around habitual residence, which will impact some people in that community. Just wondering how the department had a look at that.
Yes, I mean, sort of, we have a bit of a difficulty here in that we have there are lots of things, lots of aspects of immigration policy that we need to be cognizant of. Immigration policy still being the province of the Home Office. But certainly ministers have shown an interest in actually seeing a regionalisation of immigration policy and of seeing a policy that better suits the needs and concerns of this place. So,
Okay.
Okay, Jimmy Spratt.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a comment you made, which the Chair picked up on as well, in relation again to the Chinese community. I mean, I think it's a bit disparaging to say, well, they're in the catering trade. Let's face it, and I mean, I do a lot of work with many people, as I'm sure Alec does, from the Chinese community as well. We have a very well-established Chinese community within Northern Ireland. In fact, many of them with businesses that have been in existence for the last maybe nearly 30 years. Actually employ local people as well in many of those businesses. And a community that is very well established in terms of within the local community, particularly in the South Belfast area. And I think they would resent that remark, quite frankly, from you, in that they see themselves as part and parcel of the community within Northern Ireland. Some of them now with families into third generation. And some of them making a very substantial impact on the economy of Northern Ireland in terms of what they do, and they do well. So I think it's wrong for an official to come along here and say in the way that you said it, maybe you didn't mean it that way, but I think that community would be deeply offended at your comments earlier on today, and I want to put that on the record.
Can I just, before you answer, Ken, can I just say that through the Minority Ethnic Development Fund, the department has been working for some years with the Chinese Welfare Association on issues of integration in South Belfast directly, so I'm aware that there's been a lot of work done through Ken and Ken's branch.
But I think, Ricky, in terms of the integration with the local community, in terms of schools and everything else, the children schools and university now as well. It's a very much well integrated community, and it's a community that is very supportive of all of the institutions that they belong to, so I just don't like the way, and maybe you didn't mean it that way, but I'll leave you to explain that.
I'm with respect, Deputy Chairman, I'm not sure what I said that caused the offence. I am told by people who represent the Chinese community that there is a problem with occupational segregation. It would be arrogant of me to say, no, this is not true. That said, I agree with Mr. Spratt in everything he says, that the Chinese make a very significant contribution to this place, and they play an important role in this place. And I would wish that I could make that even greater role, that I could play my part in actually contributing to them playing an even greater role in the affairs here. Through the Minority Ethnic Development Fund, we originally paid for, we currently pay for Eileen Chan-Ho's post there, and another couple of posts. Previously, we paid for a post of someone called Anna Lowe, so we know fairly well about the contribution that the Chinese community are making.
I think that's helpful clarification, Ken, because obviously that's more than one member who expressed a concern in relation to the way you had framed a comment earlier. You've had an opportunity to clarify that there. I think the concern is that we're asking questions about the broad-ranging issue of racial equality here, and that was quite a focused comment that you meant, but you've clarified it. Jimmy's made good reference to the wide-ranging contribution made by people of Chinese ethnicity in Northern Ireland, so hopefully that's a positive clarification, and we can move on from that to, as you say here, how this strategy is going to enhance and improve that even further. Leslie Cree, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks. I think it is important, gentlemen, that we view these things in the proper perspective, and take the point of two previous speakers that you're sort of looking at ethnic groups located in specific areas. That is not necessarily the case. And again, in the broader Pakistani, Bangladeshi people have been integrated here for a long time and would not be part of these little focus groups like the Chinese Welfare Association or whatever else. They see themselves as actually part of the community. So in your paper, you're talking about capacity building, and I'm particularly interested in that. How do you see that actually working out, and how are you going to identify these people where they don't live in a little block, say somewhere in South Belfast or Cullyback or anywhere else, where actually they're spread throughout the whole community?
Well, I mean, the work of the Minority Ethnic Development Fund will continue, and it has a couple of streams to it in terms of Tier 1 and Tier 2 development, which is designed to be tailored to address the needs of the specific community. So Ken can talk a wee bit more about that. We want to work closely with the relevant service departments, the likes of DSD and health, in terms of how they deliver their services, and really as part of this consultation, the programme of work that we're referring to, which will be developed over the next few weeks and months, will hopefully address the issues which you have rightly raised around how people will be targeted and how best to meet their needs and so on. Ken?
I would say that if people are happily living as part of the community, if they don't define themselves ethnically, if they don't require any capacity building or community development, then that's very fine. I mean, sort of, I have no problem with that, and I see no reason to try and track down these people and thrust money into their unwilling hands. But we do have communities like a large number of recently arrived Somalian refugees. We are currently working with a group there with a view to actually providing a certain amount of funding so that the community can be self-supporting, that it can actually help to make its own way in Northern Ireland. We would hope to employ someone who can assist people in finding their way, orientating themselves and helping them with any problems that they may have, also helping them with language, etc., so that they can realise their rights and responsibilities.
But again, that's all predicated upon new entrants, if you like, or new people who have come to live here from other parts of the UK or whatever.
Yeah.
What about the main group? Because whilst they're scattered throughout the community, I believe, they do need and would benefit from capacity building. How are you going to contact them, and what form of capacity building are you thinking about?
I'm not sure I fully understand. People are open to approach us. We've made our fund as wide open as we can. We've advertised it. We advertise it in the regional dailies. We advertise it in local dailies here when it comes to it. We put word of the opportunities, funding opportunities, out as far as we possibly can. I'm not sure what else you expect me to do in
Well, again, with
these
respect, you're
circumstances.
focusing on these groups living closely together and obviously having an umbrella organisation. What I'm suggesting to you, that is not just the case.
Not necessarily living closely together, no. I mean, sort of groups can be fairly widespread.
But interconnected, obviously. Otherwise, how would you know where they are?
Well, they've formed an association, yes. I mean, sort of, they are a member of something or other, or they are actually in touch with an organisation that proposes to represent them, yes.
That would suggest fairly new entrants. What about all the ones who are here and who are doing a good job but could benefit from capacity building?
Capacity building to do what?
Well,
I mean, if they're
it's
functioning happily in society, then, as I say,
No, I'm not saying that either, and you can't assume that. What I'm saying is that they're there, and how do they benefit from it? Because a lot of them will be very keen to progress themselves.
I'd certainly try and see if I can find any evidence of this group that.
See, I'm worried about all these people who are sort of partially integrated.
Yep.
And really, they're going to miss out on this unless we have some way of targeting them.
I don't think so. I mean, we've heard from Mr. Spratt how Chinese people are making their way in here. We still fund the Chinese Welfare Association.
I mean, if I could just add to that to say that I mean this is a consultation document, and if there's a need like that which exists and there are ways that we can address that, then let's find those out and let's bring those forward as part of the consultation and let's have that discussion. Okay.
Fine. So I think it's important to recognise that they are there.
Can I build on Leslie's point as well? The Joseph Rowntree Foundation produced a report on poverty and ethnicity recently in February 2013. It made some findings similar to the point that you're developing, Leslie. It noted that the precise household circumstances and relative extent of poverty and inequality among minority ethnic groups in Northern Ireland are unknown. So, to develop Leslie's point, what work is the department doing to actually establish knowledge of poverty levels and equality levels in minority groups and indeed individuals across Northern Ireland?
I think the document has referred to the development of a separate set of indicators in relation to racial equality. And that's something, again, that is being put out there as a discussion topic, and we're hoping that we'll get some comments back as part of the consultation, which might inform a process around, how that information can be gathered. So, again, just to emphasise, this is really about consulting on these key issues and how we can best address them.
Understand that. I'm growing increasingly concerned that you're putting a lot on other people, other organisations to do quite detailed work for you in the nature of this consultation process. And if an organisation like Joseph Rowntree Foundation that Ken you referenced having worked closely with has completed this work over a year ago, I say recent, it's relatively recent, but over a year ago, and has set out some of those key challenges are, one would have thought that the department would be actively engaging in actioning some of them by this stage.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we have been looking at those specifically already. I think we would need to talk to our NISRA colleagues about the level of information that we have, and if there is opportunity for building on that, very happy to do that. Absolutely.
I mean, clearly there are issues. I mean, there are issues around the size of the minority ethnic population here. However, you define that, and trying to, I understand from statistician colleagues that trying to actually extrapolate from an overall survey is a very dodgy thing to do, because the sample would be so small. But certainly when we see ethnic monitoring, then we will actually have lots of administrative data that will actually shed some sort of light on these things. Okay. But there are things that will be unknowable.
Okay. One other comment from the report as well was that the lack of recognition of overseas skills and qualifications, immigration status, language difficulties and problems in negotiating support services all serve as obstacles to improving some people's employment position and financial circumstances. I assume that's the type of challenges that the strategy will be seeking to try and address.
Yes, amongst others, yes.
Okay. Alec Maskey has been waiting to come in, and I'll bring George Robinson in.
Can I apologise for not being here to start to hear your earlier remarks? I was just preparing for another committee. If I've missed anything, apologies for that. It's just that I just want to go back for a couple of minutes in terms of, I know we've dealt with this very recently again, the issues around the Roma community in particular, and obviously also the travellers is a long-standing issue. I'm trying to work out how any consultation in terms of quantitative information and the quality of information you might get, because clearly the Roma community in particular is really isolated down to one area, Ormer Road. So I'm wondering how you would weigh up any kind of comedy that you might get around that issue, because there's a huge lot of ignorance about it, because there's not a lot of information easily garnered, as Ken, you've referred to yourself, and you've been dealing with this issue hands-on for quite a while. So I'm just trying to work out, I'm not so sure that there doesn't need to be, in fact I do think there needs to be a more dedicated, focused strategy around the Roma community. But just trying to work out, have you got any, can you elaborate any more on the department's thinking on why there wouldn't be a specific approach to the Roma, and thinking also the travellers here in this context, but given the fact that they're isolated more or less in one area, how would you qualify any kind of consultation responses that you might get?
I'll make no bones about the fact, Mr. Deputy Chairman, that it's a very difficult set of circumstances. I mean, sort of, it will not be easy to get very much sensible information on the Roma. You say that they're isolated to South Belfast. Not strictly true. There are Roma in Derry, there are Roma in North Belfast and in East Belfast as well. I understand a bit of different nationalities. It's difficult to establish precisely what's happening, because people move quickly. We recognise their vulnerability, we recognise that there are difficulties with housing, there are difficulties with income, etc., and people do move quickly in these circumstances. We will certainly be looking in depth at what we can do around Roma population. I don't want to say, well, yeah, we'll do a strategy on it, because I'm hoping that we don't have to do a strategy on each ethnic group, ultimately. I'm hoping that a racial equality strategy and a refugee integration strategy will actually cover most of our needs, but certainly we will be looking to do a bit of focused work on the Roma.
And there is work ongoing with statutory partners, for example, Belfast City Council, and through the Minority Ethnic Development Fund, I think it's Bryson are supported as well to work directly with Roma.
Right, thank you.
If I just build on that again, the committee received a briefing recently from NICEM, and I believe the name of the network was the Roma and Traveller. Yep, Traveller, Gypsy and Roma Network. Is that an organisation that's represented on the racial equality panel, or that you've been meeting with?
I'm not sure that it's anything other than an idea and a title. I know Mark Donoghue, and I've seen him recently, but I'm not aware of them having any representation, any offices or anything. So I'd be happy to discuss with them. But in the meantime, we have good links with Craigavon Traveller Support Group, Armagh Traveller Support Group, and Manitoba, which is part of Bryson, and they are certainly represented and Manitoba certainly represented on the racial equality panel.
Yeah, that's encouraging. And as Alec had asked as well, you mentioned earlier consultation events, but can you give us a bit more encouragement or a detail as to how exactly you will be consulting across the board?
Well, we hope to do a number of things. I mean, sort of the minority ethnic sector seemed to think that what we'd done last time round was a model of good practice. We would go off and we would hold our own events. Not in plush hotels, hopefully, but in places where minority ethnic people feel happy to go. We would hold events at times where minority ethnic people could actually attend. I mentioned already occupational segregation. There are times when it's difficult for people to actually get away from work to see us, so we would make ourselves available then. We'd certainly go to Dungannon, we'd certainly go to Derry, we'd go to the west as well as the east. I hope we'd manage to do a large number of those events. We will also be calling on groups to undertake their own consultations with within primarily their own linguistic communities, which is what we did last time. So we provide them with the materials to consult on. We provide them with funding to rent a place, to hire childcare facilities, to provide a little bit in terms of light refreshments, and to give interpretation and translation of the documents. And they will then in return present us with a report which we will take full account of.
Just to add to that as well, there are obviously a number of strategies within OFMDFM that are out or about to go out for consultation, and there's an opportunity to hold some collective combined events, and we're looking at that within the department as well, and that would be under the banner of delivering social change.
But if any of the members of the committee around here would like to have one of these go in greater depth, then I'm very happy to turn out when it will suit them to actually undertake this consultation.
Yeah, if the committee can be of assistance in any way in relation to those consultations, please get in contact with us. We're keen to support and work with you to make sure that consultation process is as robust as possible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, George Robinson, what's the comment?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Ricky and Ken for your presentation. My question would be around the new block of immigrants. How are they being funded, and who's actually funding them? You may have answered in some of the answers that you've given. And where are they housed? Where have they been housed at the present time?
If you mean
Which department is looking after them?
The A2, there is no one necessarily looking after them. I mean, sort of people come here, they try to make their way. Some of them have access to more public funds than others do. I mean, up until 1st of January, for instance, the A2, citizens of the A2 nations, i.e. Romania and Bulgaria, were denied access to the labour market under transitional arrangements put in place by the Home Office. I think that I would not be a big fan of transitional arrangements of that sort, because I think that what it effectively does is allows people to come here but doesn't allow them the wherewithal to actually look after themselves or to support themselves. And I think that's a dangerous position to actually let. But
I'm just wondering how they're surviving, how they're living.
There's a lot. I mean, sort of. There's a lot of people living many too many to a house. I mean, one hears about 20 people, 30 people to a house. There are lots of people who are surviving on a pittance made out of car washes, I think. There are people who are begging. I'm sure we've all seen this. There are people who are getting by in whatever way they can. I mean, sort of, you see the circumstances they live in, and you think, if that is what they prefer, then goodness only knows how horrible it is where they've come from.
Is it a case that they're scattered throughout the province then?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's certain congregations of people. I mean, sort of, and our understanding is that the South Belfast Roma were brought here by one particular person, but this is viewed as being a reasonably pleasant place for Roma to be. So a reasonable chance in making a reasonably way of living and not encountering some of the problems that they encounter at home.
Thank you.
Okay, just one last question, gentlemen. The draft strategy touches on a few questions around the Race Relations Order 97, and it's my understanding, before my time, but my understanding that the Assembly in 2009 expressed a consensus view that there was a need to review and enhance the Race Relations Order. Indeed, my understanding is that the Equality Commission has set out 9 reasons why it needs to be reviewed and enhanced. And yet there seems to be questions in the draft consultation asking whether reform of Race Relations Order is still a priority. Can you speak to that in any way?
Well, I mean, you've rightly said that the Equality Commission has made further recommendations, building on what was said in 2009. I mean, I think, again, and I've said it before, you know, this is something that we really want to see is tested in the consultation process, and there are a series of questions there which really ask whether that type of work really needs to be taken forward at this time, because obviously any changes in legislation are huge resource implications, both within, you know, the department and through the Assembly. Is there anything you want to add to that, Ken?
No, I mean, sort of, we have, of course, put down both the Assembly resolution in the consultation document, and we've put down everything. I think everything that the Equality Commission has said.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're not seeking to conceal the fact that there's all this pressure for it to be changed, but it is an honest question. I mean, sort of, does it need to be changed? How does it need to be changed? When does it need to be changed? Of course, all that will be fed back to ministers when we actually have the results of the consultation.
I suppose it's just the nature of the questioning. It asks, there's a limited amount of resource within government to address each issue, including racial equality. If resources within OFMDFM are dedicated to legislative reform, this may mean that less can be done elsewhere. Is reform of Race Relations Order 97 still a priority? I suppose my question is, without any indication of the budget required for legislative reform, is it fair to be asking a consultee in response to be making that type of an informed assessment in relation to what OFMDFM or government priorities should be?
I'll offer to amend that question.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, no further members want to ask questions. That's been a fairly detailed discussion. As I said from the outset, it's a welcome development that the consultation has come forward. I must be honest, and further to some of the responses that we received today, I think there is still a significant amount of work to be done to establish the extent and nature of the problem that we're facing in terms of ethnic minority communities in Northern Ireland and inequalities that they're experiencing, and indeed the precise work that we need to do to tackle that and improve that. The committee has previously been very clear in its condemnation against any racist abuse or activity. And in particular in relation to racial abuse that Anna Lowe MLA has experienced previously. I have an interest, obviously, as Anna is my colleague, but I think it would be remiss of us not to emphasise that condemnation again, given that it's my understanding there was further racial abuse experienced by Anna at an International Women's Day event on Saturday. I hope members don't think I'm abusing my position in any way by speaking on behalf of the committee, just to reiterate the view of the committee expressed previously, that we stand foursquare with Anna and with the work of the department to ensure that we build a united community here in Northern Ireland, regardless of our backgrounds. Jimmy, you want to come in?
Yeah, well, I just want to say on the back of your comments, Chair, and I don't think it's inappropriate for you to raise the issue. I just saw it a short time ago, whenever I saw the paper, and I would want as a South Belfast colleague, as I've done in the past, to roundly condemn what happened to Anna again at the weekend. It's absolutely disgraceful and should not happen.
Chair, I would be associated with those remarks as well.
Okay, gentlemen. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Okay, members, the committee might want to consider any activity that we undertake to contribute to the consultation process, or indeed to engage with stakeholders further to the consultation process. I know we've acted as super consultee on a number of other processes previously, and that might be something that we can have a think about and return to next week or in weeks ahead. We have agenda item 7 then is the statutory rule in relation to the salaries, Assembly Ombudsman and Commissioner for Complaints Order 2014. At page 116 of your packs is a copy of the clerk's brief and a copy of the statutory rule. The rule is subject to negative resolution, and the committee has previously considered the draft rule at its meeting on the 19th of February, when the committee requested some further information on the reasons why the order was brought forward. The response from the department advised that the increase is as a result of the 2012 report of the Senior Salaries Review Body, in which it was recommended that the salary relating to Judicial Group 6.1 be increased with effect from the 1st of April 2013. This is independent advice that is given in relation to the Prime Minister, Lord Chancellor, Secretary of State for Defence, Secretary of State for Health, etc., certain senior managers in the NHS, and police and crime commissioners. It seems like a fairly routine proposal that it's appropriate for the committee to agree to, and indeed it might be worth noting, obviously, that we have got pending legislation that will change the whole structure in relation to the Ombudsman, that would put a new structure in place in the near future, hopefully regardless anyway, but members can comment. Alec Masker.
Sure, thank you. No, I mean, our only concern for looking for more information was really around the issue where it would have any impact on kind of overall salary scale, and obviously you say yourself that's really up for discussion in terms of the NIPSO legislation, so it's just we're putting a wee flag and a wee note of caution around high level salaries, but that doesn't impact on that in that way, so probably up to note.
Yep. I think that reflects the view of the committee in terms for bringing those type of salaries under closer control, and indeed the new legislation will allow us to do that going forward. But I think in relation to this particular proposal, it's something for the committee to be content to agree. Members content?
Agreed.
Okay. Agenda item 8 then is the draft forward work programme. At page 175 of your packs is a copy of the committee's forward work programme. The committee has agreed terms of reference for its inquiry into the Barossa Task Force and has written to key stakeholders seeking written submissions. As part of the evidence gathering, our members can tend to schedule a visit to Brussels to meet with some of the key figures in the Barossa Task Force. There is a proposal to look at the week before the Easter recess, around Wednesday the 9th of April, and to look to add further meetings in relation to the committee's other proposed inquiry into peace building and uniting communities. Any comments or feedback? Yeah, I think that's something for us to take away and have a think about, come back for next week, yeah. Okay, any other comments on the forward work programme? No. Okay, before we go into closed session on the European Priorities Report then, item 9 is any other business. Members, if I could just draw attention to the fact that there has been an additional consultation event arranged for the Delivering Social Change for Children and Young People strategy. That's scheduled for the 20th of March at the Stormont Hotel, 9 AM to 3:30 PM. So it's a departmental event consultation on delivering social change for children and young people. And the deadline for consultation is the 31st of March, as was extended. The consultation on good relations indicators has also been extended to the 31st of March 2014 as well, just for members to note.
Why are we doing this?
Okay, no other business. Okay then, members, we can move into agenda item 10.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly